NVIDIA in the year 2024, last month it seems, right? I think they came up with a supercomputer, a micro supercomputer, right? I think you can hold it on your palm. I think that the name of the supercomputer is Digit, right? What I feel is that the adoption of technology will only happen if it is accessible by common people, either through a small size or through an affordable pricing.
Hey guys, so today we had Dr. Chakradhara Panda, a leader in the fields of data and AI, with over almost 2 decades of experience across advanced analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and generative AI. Dr. Panda has made a remarkable impact on industries ranging from aviation, insurance, banking, and the public sector as well. Currently serving as the head of data and AI at Sirius Digitech, he is the forefront of driving innovative and scalable industrial AI solutions. Dr. Panda holds a PhD and M.Phil in Applied Econometrics from the University of Hyderabad, where his research focused on leveraging artificial neural networks for modeling complex systems like exchange rates and stock returns. Like a true technocrat and a mentor, Dr. Panda has not only designed and delivered cutting edge solutions, but also nurtured cross functional teams and fostered a culture of excellence. Very good evening, Dr. Panda. Thanks for making the time to come to the pod, especially on a Sunday evening. How is it going for you?
Yeah, it's all good. Thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you don't ask me difficult questions. But yeah, certainly I'm excited about it. Yeah.
Great, great. So, Dr. Panda, so we'll start by understanding, your journey, from transitioning from economics to artificial intelligence now, which then extrapolates to your next 20 years and, what have been your key milestones along the way.
Yeah. See, I think this is a question that I quite often get wherever I go and speak. When I speak to the people, the same question comes to me. But I think, see, what I feel economics is a quantitative discipline, right? Yeah, I think in India we have some, take it as a different discipline, but it has all the elements involved, what a AI solution, requires. So if you talk about an AI solution, it primarily requires a couple of things, right? The first thing is the data, right? And then I think it would involve some algorithms, right? Involving some math, statistics and all. And then finally, when you build an AI solution, probably you would need a programming language, right? So starting from the beginning, from data to algorithm to programming language, I think economics is the discipline which provides you that kind of a platform, right? And yeah, I think, and it's a quantitative discipline. It also helps you understand the explainability side of the AI solutions again, right? So in my sense, I think that has added a lot of value to my thinking process. And whenever we go hear the problem from the client and all, I think, this particular background has added a lot of value in terms of that. That's number one. Number two, I think I would like to talk about the learning side of the work again, right? I think whenever I got an opportunity in last 20 years, right, I have never shied away from learning new concepts, new technologies, or anything for that matter, right? I think if I remember correctly, when I joined, I think my career has been a little unconventional. I started with my academic career, then I moved to the industry. So when I moved to the industry, I'm just giving an example here. When I moved to the industry, I was completely oblivion to some of the tools and technologies. Taking an example of, say, during the time, if I give you the year and all, 2007 and 2008, so there was a programming language called VBA, Visual Basic Applications, right, where all these macro Excel macro was working as an automation tool. And so I was completely oblivion to that particular language, right? But that was the need of the hour, right? And then taking the challenge, learning a new programming language, learning different data platforms, even Bloomberg. I think I got into the financial side of the advanced analytics and all. So learning new data platform like Bloomberg, data stream. Later, when I got into the portfolio optimization, learning some of these new things, right? How do you optimize a portfolio quantitatively? Right, I think all these learnings have been extremely beneficial, and that is something that I just wanted to highlight as the second point. And third, I think I would like to talk about the ability to take risk and able to handle the uncertainty part of it. If you look at my journey, last 20 years and all, right? I think I started with my academic career. I went into the banking and financial services, banking and financial services industry, where I was primarily looking after the quantitative side of a lot of predictive analytics, starting from GDP forecasting, inflation forecasting, and all long-term return forecasting and all. And then I slightly changed my track again from purely a knowledge based quantitative analytics to the practical side of it, right, where you go and manage portfolio of of 20,000 crore of money. So that was a huge change for me again, right? And was absolutely new for me right, because I was never exposed to the portfolio optimization, and that too managing the portfolio of this volume was a huge challenge for us. From there, I moved to data science again, right, when it came in 2015 and all, right, and since then, we have been doing a lot of data science and AI solutions. So this entire journey has a lot of turns and twists, right? I think from an academician to a banker, to a fund manager, quant fund manager, to a a data science professional. So everywhere there is something new which has happened to me, and I have embraced that kind of a change with with whole heart and intention, for that matter. And the final point, right, I think this is very close to my heart, right? I think because this long journey again is not to complete, or will not be possible to complete, unless until you have strong mentors on the way, right? I think if I can talk about that, I think I had my own share of privilege to have strong mentors on my way, starting from my research career, right? Because I chose an very unconventional field when I selected, artificial neural network to be my PhD thesis, right? Because in India, probably way back in 2003, if I can take a few moments here, artificial neural network was not a very known technique, right? Even my department refused the topic to be a PhD topic and all, because everyone was very apprehensive about it, and that too in a economics concept, in a financial market domain and all. Applying a cutting edge technology probably was something out of the box at that time. But I think I had a lot of my friends, my colleagues, research colleagues and all, they helped me a lot, right? I think. And then my thesis supervisor, and then while I was managing the portfolio, I think I got a lot of very good mentors, right, who gave me the freedom and flexibility. And today in my current organization also, I'm getting that kind of a support to go and experiment, right? So be a fearless leader in terms of experimenting and innovating things again, right? Take that kind of a plunge. That is possible if you have enough support and guidance from your mentors. So these are a few things probably I just wanted to highlight.
Yeah,
I hope I'm making
absolutely. I
sense.
mean, I
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't relate more to this because I also come from the background of economics as well. So I relate a lot that whatever ingredients are required to understand how AI functions per se is there. When you study a lot of economics, econometrics. So I picked up a few points that you mentioned, and that gives me a next cue that initially when you started in the it was macros and a lot of Excel happening at that point, right? And now it has come to generative AI, where everything can be automated on a click of a button, right? So if we can zoom in a bit on that point, that how did this, change over the years now, and what has been your experience on that?
See, I think I'll tell you something, right? I think what I see, probably, if you look at the whole journey in last 15 and 20 years and so, right? I mean, the foundation has remained more or less stable, right? So when I say foundation, if I'm talking about different algorithms, right, starting from the neural network, the Fourier transformation, spectral wavelet, right, graph as a technology, I think all these technologies are fairly old. I think somebody comes to me and tell me that graph is a technology which is very new, I don't agree to that. Graph probably happened 30, 40, and 50 years before, right? What I changed of late or during this time is the data, right? So when I say data, I think I'm talking about two things here. The first one is the data type, right? Because if I reflect on my own journey, right, during those initial or early years, probably the data that we are handling was mostly revolving, revolving around the structured data, the tabular data and all, right? Probably that data type has multiplied now, right? And which is a fantastic development to have, right? Today, you and I are conversing, that becomes a data point which can be taken into consideration, which can be analyzed, and which can be used for some practical implementation. And from structured data to unstructured data involving your text, your sound, your image, video, right? I mean, all these things have been increasingly getting used. I think that's number one. And number two, if I go back to my earlier years, right, the change that I see is the scale or the volume of data, right? I think that is the second change which has happened now, because if I remember, I worked for all big MNCs where a similar stuff was happening. Say GDP forecasting, inflation forecasting, long-term return. So they're all part of the predictive analytics, right? Customer segmentation and all. Probably that scale has magnified and has grown exponentially today, right? That is the second change that I would like to talk about. And certainly I think some of the new algorithms also have come in, right? And I in terms of transformers, right, a couple of other things which have come in place. But if I want to make a comparison and how this entire field has grown, I would attach more importance to the data, right, which has really evolved over this 10 or 15 years and so.
Yeah, a very important point was picked up over here, that it is all the data that helps a lot, right? So in the industry today, given that you had a lot of expertise in countless AI projects now, do you feel that data challenges still persist, or industry has made significant progress in overcoming them? Because there is a lot of data, okay, but is it readily available to execute an AI project?
No, I think I'll answer the second question first. Has there been any progress as far as the data is concerned? The answer is certainly yes. I mean, I'm not going back 10 years or prior to that, but last a few years, I'm basically thinking from the year 2015. If I can give you an example, right? And when I was helping an automotive industry, we were building some predictive maintenance stuff and all. I remember the day or those long conversations, how the data is going to be migrated, right? I think there was an example where one guy flew from Singapore to India carrying the disk containing the data. And this happened in the year 2015. And that was the time where, that was the thing which was happening as far as the data movement and data migration was concerned. But today, certainly, a lot of things have happened, right? You talk about data lake, you talk about data mesh, fabric, a lot of cloud, I think, is an important thing to happen for us, definitely. And the kind of data that we're handling today, because there was a time where I think maximum of your analytical solutions were built around the structured data. But today, if you look at 60 to 70 or even more than that, of is primarily using the unstructured data involving voice, noise, right, and sound and text data and all. So certainly, I think if I look at the journey, I mean, data has become more accessible. Data is getting increasingly used by these organizations and companies. And certainly there has been a progress on that side. Now I'll answer the first question. Data challenge still persisting? I feel so, right? The reason being, I think why I feel so today also the data challenge persists, probably the lack of a proper data strategy at the organization level, right? If you look at the organization as a whole, right, there are multiple businesses, there are multiple data owners. So the data is still, for many such companies, data is still siloed, right? Data is still immovable, right? I mean, people say that data has to be accessible, data has to move freely to get the maximum out of it. But today, I think still there is a challenge where there is a lack of movement data from one business to another business, for that matter, right? So having a consolidated data strategy at the organization level is probably going to help to make the data more accessible, more usable, to get the maximum return out of it. I think that's where probably it requires a consolidated data strategy at the organization level and at the group level, which means that there has to be a push from the top of the management, right? So that businesses come together, they understand the importance of this data culture, how the data is going to freely move from one business to another business. And that's where a lot of consolidation and consensus has to happen as far as the data accessibility is concerned.
So I understand that, the first key point that we take from here is having a consolidated data structure and data management a system, I would say, where data smoothly flows from one business to the other or one sector to the other. Otherwise, it becomes a lot difficult for the people in the ground who are developing AI per se to capture those data and convert AI projects immediately or on a shorter notice, right? So
I think I will add,
yeah.
another point in my experience, right? Because I have done a lot of in last few years, we have done a lot of pilots, several POCs and POBs. My experience tells me that why some of these AI projects are not successful because it doesn't have the right data at the right point in time, right? I mean,
That is very
I'm
important.
not
Yeah.
the only example of it. I think there are so many cases where AI projects have been unsuccessful because of the lack of quality data and all kind of thing there.
Yeah, I mean, do you find any other factors that might be responsible for AI projects not succeeding, perhaps?
No, see, I think this is an important question, right? AI projects not succeeding, it is not answer this question very pointedly, but I'll just take
Mhm.
you through the transition which has happened in last 5 or 10 years. Probably, I think the AI projects have been successful in last couple of years, primarily after the pandemic time, right, where companies and organizations they are successfully implementing AI projects and solutions, right? I'll give you an example. Take the example of any company whose share prices have doubled or tripled in last 2 or 3 years, right? Take the example of Nvidia, right? 2021 the share price of this company was, I don't exactly remember, but it will be around, it was around 40, 35 to $40. But today, right, it is hovering in between 130 to 150 US dollar. And so the share price has tripled there. Take the example of Microsoft for that matter. Probably during the same time their share prices would have doubled for Microsoft. So the whole point is that those companies who adopted the AI path in their journey of evolution, they have been more successful. Share prices are going for that. So what it tells us, it tells us that probably today we are standing where we are seeing a lot of adoption which is happening, right? So it's relatively better. If I look back 5 years and today, certainly the adoption, the maturity has certainly evolved and has certainly grown up in these years, right? And because I remember, again, I'll just tell you my own example, right? For the same company that I was talking about, we were having a a discussion with supremely fine engineers, right, who build sophisticated premium, vehicles, cars and trucks. I think we had an interesting discussion in the year 2015 or 2016 somewhere. But that time was different, right? I think the moment you come up with a data finding, probably, right, I think there was a little bit of friction, right, between the business and some of these AI solutions, we were building. But today, I think the business is more aligned. I think when I go and speak to the business, so business is wanting the AI solution on their journey, on their analytical journey, and all. I think that's a very positive thing to happen. So I think from that perspective, it is really very encouraging at the moment.
I agree completely. So, if we talk about adoption of AI, then the current organization perhaps is the bigger one of the biggest examples to take per se. There is, I would beg to differ in one of the points that has been a lot of adoption though. But my experience, which has been staying in one of my previous companies, we were suggesting a AI solution to, let's say, the sales team, perhaps. Okay, and the manager, I don't know, had been having around 15 years of experience or so. His first question came up that why do I rely on your AI solution? I have 15 years of experience in the market. right? So, but talking about explainability per se, right? That why the individual should rely on an AI solution. How on a daily basis you deal with a lot of technical and non-technical stakeholders as well in the business. How do you effectively communicate your solutions to these stakeholders, specifically, more importantly, non-technical stakeholders?
See, I think for me, everything is a lot of practice. I think I believe in that, right? I mean, I come and speak to you now, right? I think that means I have done my research, right? A little bit of thinking has gone behind it, right? What kind of questions I can anticipate from you. I think we were having some discussions, yesterday and all. From there, I could anticipate some questions. I prepared myself for this particular discussion. And so what I'm trying to tell you is that in any communication, right, what requires is a bit of effort and practice for it, right? Because I come from a consulting background, right? So where one thing is for sure, whenever we go and speak to the client, we try to understand who the client is, right? And there is a systematic approach behind it. We go take the client's name, search it in the public repository, whether it is any social media kind of thing. We get a lot of information about the client. What is the background of the client, where he is or she is coming from, right? That's extremely important to understand who the audience is, right? The moment you understand your audience, it becomes supremely easy for you to communicate with the target person. So that's number one. Number two, I think I feel what is important for a better communication when you go and reflect your technical findings with non-technical people is to have a consultative mindset. So what does it mean? It means that a consultative mindset is what? I mean, it talks about primarily two things: your curiosity and how you are, becoming client centric and all, right? So curiosity means when you go and converse with the client, the business, right? That means you are trying to understand their business problem, their challenges, their pain points. What is that they're looking for? That becomes extremely important again, right? And the client centricity, I means you are keeping your client in the center again, right? It's not about reflecting your technical findings or the way you are going to solve the problem. Sometimes you also need to have a consultative approach to challenge some of their existing assumptions. That's number one. And also at the same time embrace the change, right? And that's where I think a lot of these companies, I think in my experience, you talk about any technology company, I'm not going to take their names. All these technology companies, they're increasingly focusing on the consultative mindset. And some of these companies, they also have changed their names, right, to reflect that consultative part. So these are the two things or three things, maybe: the practice, go and understand your target, audience for that matter. Third one is to have a consultative mindset. I think these are few things that you have to keep in mind, right? When you go and talk to the people, whether it's the technical folks or non-technical folks, communication is, how you are, understanding each other and, conveying your message. I think that's going to be completely powerful if you have, all these basics ready for you. Yeah.
That's very important to understand. So we will, Dr. Panda, we will switch our gears here a bit. Initially, you were talking about the, you have been a part of a lot of predictive analytics projects. Let's say, for the time being, we take the example of GDP forecasting, and you marked an important point over there that data structure changed over the time so much that new algorithms were adopted as well, right? Primary question over here is, even though GDP forecasting were present in the market previously, how do teams ensure that whenever even similar projects come in, new innovations are taken care of, new innovations are actually put into the effort of developing the product or delivering the service person?
Yeah. So I think this is, again, something which is very important to understand, because today I think AI is the flavor of the market, right? I think a lot of, I mean, which is good, right? Which puts a lot of, responsibility on us also. How do we build, responsible and ethical solutions and all. But yeah, at the same time, I think AI market is also, overcrowded. Today, you would have multiple companies which are, floating in the market, who who caters to very specific business requirements and the overall, requirements and all. Innovation, I think, the way I understand it, right? I think I have my own thinking about innovation again, right? Innovation doesn't need always to be big. I personally feel even simple solutions can be the best solution. I can take the example of these simple, innovations who have really changed the world, right? One example I can say, the use of the seat belt in cars way back in 1950s by the car manufacturer or the vehicle manufacturer Volvo, what is one example of it. So there is nothing great in this solution. People would say there is no heavy funda, engineering or math or stats behind, but I think this is a simple solution, but which is similarly. Take the example of your suitcase, right? Just having four wheels, or
Yeah.
yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, that has changed this entire transportation industry, I would believe. So for me, if you ask me, I think innovation, I take it that way. It doesn't always need to be very big, right? So my only thing is that whenever we are building AI solutions, right, I think we need to be a little curious, right? How differently we can think through and bring the change in the process and all, right? That is number one. Number two, sometimes I feel that we all should understand the mechanism or the process behind any particular application. Sometimes we stay at 5,000 or 10,000 feet above, right? When I interact with people on the Gen AI side, I ask only two questions, right? Have you understood the transformation architecture? Do you know how an encoder works? Do you know how a decoder works? How an attention layer particularly works and all? And I think today, it has become supremely easy. I think the technology has to be like that only, so that the adoption increases. But as developers, we need to understand a little bit of the mechanism behind it, right? So that you can think of a differentiation which you can bring to the table to have that innovation in place. So there are many examples that I can bring to the table, but simple solutions, simple engineering, sometime a little bit of thinking, your curiosity, understanding the mechanism behind a particular application, an algorithm, or a technology is probably going to take you, it's going to take you further up and all kind of thing there.
So this is the first time I actually heard someone answering that, how should you understand the basic mechanism of something, and that might lead to understanding how to innovate further, right? So, and the second point that we were talking about primarily is, although the market of AI is yet overcrowded, right? But we see every other day it is being used in some different application as well. So as we were speaking the other day, that AI has recently been credited for solving cold cases by Kerala police, and it was nothing more than an image enhancement AI that has been used. But what's your perspective on AI expanding to these non-conventional domains?
No, I agree. I'm not surprised. See, I think if you ask me these questions, I see the applicability of AI wherever there is huge volume of data. That's number one. And wherever there are activities or tasks which can be reused or which can be automated for that matter. I think these are the basic things where you can see that whether the AI is going to be applicable or not. Applicable or not. So I'm not surprised if AI is getting increasingly used in solving criminal cases and all. I'll just slightly move away from it. I'll give you some data points. The digital transformation is happening rapidly, all over the world. Correct? Yeah. So with all the digital transformation happening, there is a cybersecurity threat. If I give you a
Right.
data point which has been estimated like that, the damage due to the cybersecurity threat is going to exceed 10 trillion US dollar by 2025 and 2026. I mean, that's a huge financial loss. 10 trillion, 15 trillion, US dollar for that matter. And when I talk about the cybersecurity, some existing patterns are there, some new patterns are emerging because of the new digital transformation which is happening. So it has become an evolving field, and there is huge volume of data again, right? I mean, if you take a look, I mean, in terms of transactions and all, I think they run into millions and billions for that matter. So how do you process this data again? How do you unravel some existing patterns, some new patterns and all, as far as the cybersecurity or the cyber fraud is concerned? And that's where AI has to play a significant role, right? I think I wrote my last blog somewhere where I was thinking that what technology from the AI field can be very, very effective in taking care of all these cybersecurity threats and frauds. Graph is a technology, right? I mean, probably which can be increasingly used to have or to discern the existing pattern and the new pattern which is increasing along the way of digital transformation and all. That's number one. Number two, I think if you look at, I think probably you are involved in some of the work, right? Today we are increasingly using AI for the legal domain and all kind of a thing. So I mean, that's of that is something which is heavily beneficial for the community, for the legal community, for that, because I feel that's going to help them saving their time by 20 to 25%, right? Which is a significant increase, as far as the operational efficiency and productivity is concerned. And today you will look at the judicial system again. I think a lot of cases are pending because of lack of judges, lack of lawyers. AI as a system which can augment the capability of this entire legal and judicial system. I think that is going to help us, totally, for that matter.
Amazing, amazingly said, sir. So, if I take a moment here when we are talking about so much innovation happening into finding different use cases of AI, and we are also stepping into an environment where there are companies like OpenAI, okay, talking about almost developing artificial general intelligence or artificial super intelligence for that matter. What do you see as the next big opportunities or challenges for AI development over the next decade or so?
Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you my own feeling, one more time. Today, I feel I was having a conversation. This is slightly off topic, but let me, do that for you. Today, I was having a conversation. We were, hosting an event somewhere, right? We wanted the photography and the videography to happen, right? And the event management company, he told me about a new concept, right? Which, I was not very much aware of it, right? Because I come from a background where generally the video will be taken for the full event, right? And there will be an editing for 1 hour or 2 hours. It's like a full movie kind of a thing, right? But then say, he was telling me this, that the time had changed, right? You don't need to have a 1 hour video because your target audience has changed. Actually, they don't have time to sit and watch the video for 1 hour, or the same video for more than an hour kind of a thing. And he was suggesting me a short video of 5 to 10 minutes. I say, come on, 5 to 10 minutes video capturing the moments of the event is too less. I think that's what that's what the world is looking for. So the point that I'm trying to make, two important things have happened here. The world has moved away from bigger to smaller and longer to shorter, right? And if
Right.
you
Yeah.
ask me honestly, the AI technology is going to evolve around these two big changes which have happened. So in my sense, what I'm thinking, the AI field is going to evolve basically around three things. One is the size, scale, and cost. So I call it as
Absolutely.
size, scale, and cost. I think I was going through a report, I think somewhere, Nvidia in the year 2024, last month it seems, right? I think they came up with a supercomputer, a micro supercomputer, right? I think you can hold it on your palm. I think that the name of the supercomputer is Digit, right? It is so small, right? It's good to see a supercomputer what you can hold on your palm. And Nvidia is claiming that the entire AI applications of Nvidia has been hosted on this supercomputer. That's amazing development, right? And the cost. I mean, if you look at the supercomputer, I think they were talking about a price in a range of 2,500 to 3,000 US dollar. I mean, that's very affordable again, right? So if you look at this entire journey, if you talk about the OpenAI costs, the large language model, the cost has also has reduced dramatically. But I think we have still a long path to cover, because for me, what I feel is that the adoption of technology will only happen if it is accessible by common people, either through a small size, or through an affordable pricing. Both these uh, things have to happen. I mean, that's going to help the overall, AI, the adoption of the AI technology and all. And a second thing, I think this is probably one area where I am seeing the momentum to continue. The second thing is that still far away. I mean, if you talk about it, there is a much hype around Gen AI and all which is happening. I mean, which is good to happen. I mean, good to see. I think you are also working on some Gen AI stuff, right? I'm also involved in that, right? I think if you look at Gen AI has been a very disruptive technology, right? And it has
Absolutely.
raised the
Mhm.
curiosity level of the AI community. A lot of organizations are talking about it. They're trying. They are experimenting about it. But if you look at Gen AI is should be primarily used because there is a hype around it. So a lot of people are trying in different ways. So which is good to happen. But Gen AI per se, that framework is to develop, to create, or to generate content. We are far away from the definition of AI in real sense. If I want to define artificial intelligence, it is something which either match with the human intelligence or exceeds it, right? I mean, we are still far away from it. I think a lot of things have
Right.
to happen.
Mhm.
Because if I can give you an example of it, because the way the transformer works, the architecture works, right? It predicts the next token for that matter, right? um,
Absolutely.
Now you and I are conversing. I'm not predicting in my mind what will be my next word. I'm listening you are listening me. There is a lot of abstraction which is happening inside the brain, right? To have the intelligence into the place and all. I think Gen AI is still far away from it, and hence I see a lot of development has to happen, a lot of work has to happen from moving the Gen AI to reach the level of artificial general intelligence, what people are talking about at the moment.
Absolutely. So, I recently read a blog where they primarily talked about that, yeah, of course, Gen AI is a lot far away from reaching the artificial general intelligence level to replicate human behavior per se. But there is another domain known as cognitive AI, which has taken up a lot of attention of the community right now. So, a combination of those might help to converge to what we call as artificial general intelligence. And Dr. Panda, so I recently saw Anthropic used Gen AI to control computers. So they released computer control agents for that matter, right? Which is nothing but they are predicting the next token. It's only where they are generating commands that might control a particular computer, but they put forward a different use case altogether for that matter. And talking about the next point is that the community or the audience who are viewing so much content have now shifted from viewing large content to having small content now. And that is why Instagram, YouTube are making a lot of money out of shorts and reels per se.
Yeah,
Right. And that being taken care of, the platform that I'm recording this thing on right now has n number of AI solutions that they have put in. So I really, right now I really don't have to put so much of effort in clicking and finding out the pauses or making the sound correct. It has given me all the tools that is necessary, and just on a click, it will enhance the sound, make the image or the video okayish, color correction, and everything is there almost that's required. Yeah. So that being said, I'll end this on a final question. That is, if let's say we keep all the AI and machine learning and mathematics, economics away for a minute, what would you have pursued if AI were not in the picture or economics were not in the picture?
yeah. No, I think I was not particularly targeting, right? I think to be in the AI space, I think it has happened, all along, in the journey. Actually, I got to know some people when I was working for managing the portfolio of 20-30,000 crore of money. I got an email from my future company, right? In the year 2014, I would suppose. They gave me a job description, what I couldn't understand at all, right? The connotations were different, right? I think I was having strong mathematical background, statistics background and all, but still I think the connotation which was used in the job description, I couldn't follow it. But I was looking for a change. I took a chance, so I sent my profile to them. They also couldn't understand, or they couldn't make much out of it. I think there was total chaos, right, between two parties involved, right? I mean, that's how the things happen, right? And that's how the opportunity comes in, and then take it. So actually I didn't plan for it, but it has happened for me. I'll tell you another thing, because I have a love and hate relationship with math, right? I always hated math, but mathematics has some interesting proposals for me in my entire life and career, right? Whenever I needed some help, math has done that for me. Because I'll tell you, because in my research career, in the beginning of my research career, I was looking for a sponsorship, maybe. All right. And during that time, sponsorship was limited, not today's time where you go and get a sponsorship and all. So I was writing UGC JRF. I hated math. So I, I thought of writing the UGC JRF. JRF is the Junior Research Fellowship in another discipline, right? In another subject, I will not say discipline, which is the agriculture economics. And that was a disaster for me. So I couldn't clear this, but I think it's not happening. Let me try my hand in math. Right, my second attempt was in math, and then I qualified for the UGC JRF for that matter. I hated my PhD topic because it was extremely frustrating for me, because I was estimating a neural network, using the Pentium processor. Right, the one job would run for 17 to 18 hours a day, and that becomes extremely fatigue and frustrating for me. So I decided not to work in such topics in my future. But as the luck could have it, I said, so today I'm working in my day-to-day businesses and activities, for that matter. But thanks to the evolvement again, right? Today, your compute power, your processing time has significantly reduced compared to those years. But yeah, answering your question, I didn't have anything specific in my mind. I always loved to be a researcher, to be trying new things, right? Experimenting, taking up some new challenges, right? That actually motivates and kicks me in, actually, right? I think whenever I do the repetition, that becomes monotonous for me, and hence you would see that how I have changed my trajectory along my professional career, for that matter. So yeah, I think anything new that excites me, I'll definitely take it up.
That's amazing. I mean, you actually went back to what you said, that taking the risk for that matter is very important. Okay, then only you find out that where you stand. And I mean, I can't relate more about what you said, that how frustrating even at that point was for you working in artificial neural networks, especially when you are in PhD. And I just had to develop a small model when I was doing my dissertation in my masters. But it was all around understanding that even though after hours of running the model you find that no, it's not having any significant effect, and you do that iteration all over again, and find out that what's more suitable. So that has been a great session with you, Dr. Panda. So I mean, this is one of my first sessions with an individual who has been associated with both academics, for that matter, as well as had so much of industry experience.
Take a moment. I'll just take a moment with my probably. I'll give you a couple of data points maybe to conclude before we conclude this session, right? See, I think what is important is to understand the AI maturity for companies and organizations, for that. Because today, if you look at this AI as a journey, different companies and organizations are at different stages of their own AI journey. Some companies would have in the beginning, would be at the beginning stage, what I generally call them as the experimentation stage. So then possibly the innovation stage, and then probably you would have the companies who are already at a very advanced AI maturity level. They're the achievers kind of set of companies and organizations, for that matter. So I'll give you a few data points. What really excites me, right? One thing is that I see a great change which has happened as far as the public sector is concerned, right? If I make a comparison between say 2020 and 2024 and 2025 this year, I mean, because I have worked extensively in the public sector, and so I know, I mean, the kind of transformation which has happened for this particular sector. AI maturity, if I put them on a scale between 0 to 100, right? I think probably in 2020 and 2021 they were somewhere 20 25 to 30 and all kind of a thing, and that has doubled today, right? I mean, which is a huge and significant increase, as far as the public sector is concerned, because that is a very positive thing to happen for a critical sector like public sector, right? That's number one. Automotive industry is one industry I personally feel they always have been ahead, as far as the data and analytics are concerned, right? So automotive industry is always a leader in the group, right? And that has also made tremendous progress, as far as the AI maturity is concerned. It is ahead of other sectors and all kind of a thing. One thing probably where I like to have that kind of maturity coming in is one sector which is I'm seeing a little bit of a laggard at the moment, is the banking and financial services. Because banking and financial services, they are primarily very rich in the data. They have been doing the analytics from so many years, but as far as the AI maturity is concerned, somewhere I think they need to really pick up the trend and reach and exceeds the industry average and all kind of a thing. Overall, I think if I look at, I think sectors have increased their maturity level, right? You talk about the retail is another example of it, and I am hoping more developments have to happen, more adoption has to happen, and all kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I will have to edit this part and put it in the very beginning. I should have asked about, right, that what is the, you have worked in so many sectors for now, then how, AI has varied over all the sectors. But it's astonishing to understand that public sector is the one that is had a tremendous growth, besides automotive industry. Dr. Panda, the team will ensure that the best of the parts comes first and the editing happens properly.
Absolutely.
So again, we are talking about a 1 hour long video, and as we were talking about, people are more interested in short versions of it. But thank you so much for making the time, and it has been 1 hour for me, and I believe the audience will fetch a lot out of this as well.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Absolutely, my pleasure always. Yeah. Thanks a lot.